Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today, we're going to be tackling a topic that's generating a ton of buzz, and I'm sure you guys have heard about it: NFTs and the metaverse. I mean, you've probably heard these terms thrown around. Maybe you're not quite sure what they really mean or why they even matter. We're going to try and uncover the facts and the potential behind all this new tech, and by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a solid understanding of how NFTs are like building blocks for the metaverse and what this all means for the future of, well, pretty much everything digital. Now, I know there's some skepticism around NFTs. Are they just hype, a passing fad? I'll be honest, I had some of those same questions myself, but trust me, we're going to dig deep and really see what's going on here. So let's just start with the basics. What exactly is an NFT?
So NFT stands for a non-fungible token. Now that might sound like something straight out of a science fiction movie, but it's actually pretty straightforward. Think of it this way. You know how a dollar bill is fungible, meaning you can trade one for another, and it's essentially the same thing. NFTs are the opposite. Each one is unique and can't be replaced with something else.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's like a digital fingerprint. Each NFT is one of a kind. But I still don't quite get what makes them valuable. I mean, it's digital. Can't you just copy and paste it?
That's the thing about NFTs. They solve a problem that's always existed with digital art and other digital creations. You're right, you could always right-click and save a digital image, but an NFT changes the game because it verifies ownership on a blockchain. Think of it like a digital ledger that everyone can see but no one can tamper with. So even though you can copy a digital file, only the person who owns the NFT has that proof of ownership.
That's actually pretty brilliant. It's like having a deed to a house, but for digital stuff. So you're telling me that if I buy an NFT of a piece of digital art, I'm the only one who truly owns it, even if other people have copies.
Exactly. And that's a big deal, especially for creators. Artists, musicians, writers, anyone who creates digital content can now have real ownership and control over their work, something that was much harder to do in the digital world before.
I can see how that would be a game changer for artists, but what about the rest of us? Why should we care about NFTs?
Well, think about it. What if you could own a piece of your favorite song, or a virtual item from a game you love, or even a piece of virtual land in a digital world? That's what NFTs are opening up. They're creating a new kind of ownership, a new way to connect with the things we value, even if they exist in the digital realm.
That's a really interesting way to think about it. It's like NFTs are blurring the lines between the physical and digital worlds. Okay, so we've got the basics of what an NFT is now. I'm curious about this whole art world connection. You mentioned digital art earlier. How are NFTs changing the art world?
It's really shaking things up. For starters, it's creating a new market for digital art. Remember that digital artist Beeple? His NFT artwork sold for a whopping $69 million at Christie's.
Yeah, I remember that story. It seemed like the whole world was talking about it. Was that just a one-off, or is that kind of thing happening more often?
It was definitely a watershed moment. But it's not an isolated incident. More and more artists are turning to NFTs to sell their work directly to collectors, cutting out the traditional gatekeepers of the art world like galleries and auction houses.
I can see how that would be appealing to artists, more control, more direct connection with their audience. It's almost like the music industry where artists are increasingly bypassing record labels and going independent. But what about the buyers? What's driving them to spend so much money on digital art?
It's a combination of factors. Some people see it as an investment, speculating that the value of these NFTs will increase over time. Others are genuinely passionate about the art itself and want to support the artists they admire. And then there's the whole idea of owning something unique in the digital world, something that nobody else can replicate.
It sounds like NFTs are not just changing how art is sold, but also how it's valued.
Absolutely. It's forcing us to reconsider what ownership means in the digital age. And this goes way beyond just visual art. Musicians are releasing exclusive tracks as NFTs writers are publishing their work directly to their fans. And even virtual fashion is becoming a thing.
Wow, so it's not just about owning a JPEG, it's about owning a piece of the creative experience, the artist's vision, the story behind the work. That's pretty powerful, but I have a feeling we're just scratching the surface here. There's another big piece of this puzzle we need to talk about: the metaverse. Now, I've heard this term thrown around a lot lately, but to be honest, I'm still not quite sure I fully grasp it. Can you break it down for me? What exactly is metaverse?
Think of the metaverse as the next evolution of the internet. A persistent shared 3D virtual world where people can interact with each other, work, play, and even own digital assets, all within this immersive digital space.
Okay, so it's not just browsing websites or scrolling through social media feeds. It's like stepping into a video game, but with real-world implications. It sounds pretty futuristic.
It does, but it's closer than you might think. There are already several major metaverse projects in development. Decentraland, for instance, is a virtual world built on the Ethereum blockchain where users can buy and sell virtual land, build on it, and even host events. Then there's the Sandbox, another platform where brands like Adidas and even Snoop Dogg are investing heavily in virtual real estate.
Wait, Snoop Dogg has virtual real estate. Okay, now you've got my attention. This is starting to sound less like a game and more like a whole new economy is being built.
You're catching on quickly. And it's not just celebrities and brands. Regular people are buying virtual land, building virtual homes and businesses, and creating all sorts of experiences within these metaverse platforms.
So we have these virtual worlds being built, and we have these unique digital tokens called NFTs. I'm starting to see a connection here, but can you spell it out for me? How do NFTs and the metaverse actually fit together?
That's the million-dollar question.
Uh-huh.
And that's what we'll be exploring in part 2 after a quick break. Welcome back. So before the break, we were just starting to kind of unravel the connection between NFTs and the metaverse.
It is. We left off with this idea of virtual worlds like Decentraland and the Sandbox, and I'm really dying to know how NFTs actually work within those spaces.
Okay, so picture this. You're in the metaverse,
Yeah.
right? Hanging out in this virtual world. Maybe you're attending a concert or you're exploring a digital art gallery
Yeah.
or even just strolling through like a virtual park.
Okay, I'm there. I'm in the metaverse now. What?
Now imagine that everything you see, everything you interact with can be owned. That virtual concert venue, someone owns that. The digital artwork on the walls of the gallery. NFTs represent ownership for those pieces. And yes, even that virtual park bench you're sitting on could be an NFT.
Whoa. My mind is blown. So it's like owning a piece of this digital reality. That's wild.
It is, and that's the beauty of NFTs. They provide this mechanism for ownership, scarcity, and even transferability of digital assets within the metaverse.
Okay, let's back up for a second. You keep mentioning ownership. What exactly does it mean to own something in the metaverse?
It's a good question, and honestly, it's one that's still being debated a lot. But essentially, owning an NFT that represents something in the metaverse gives you certain rights and privileges. For example, if you own a virtual concert venue, you could host events there.
Yeah.
You could charge admission, or you could even rent it out to other users.
So it's like owning real estate, but in the digital world.
Exactly. And just like in the real world, the value of that virtual real estate can go up or down depending on a lot of different factors, location scarcity, demand, things like that. Remember how we talked about people spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on virtual land?
Yeah.
That's because they believe in the future potential of these metaverse platforms.
That's incredible. I mean, it's still a bit hard to wrap my head around, but the possibilities seem endless. What are some other examples of how NFTs are being used in the metaverse?
Well, we already talked about virtual concerts. Imagine buying an NFT that not only gives you access to the concert, but also unlocks exclusive behind-the-scenes content or merchandise or even meet and greets with the artist.
That would be amazing, like a super fan VIP pass, but in the metaverse.
Exactly. And it's not just concerts.
Okay.
NFTs can be used for ticketing to any kind of virtual event, from conferences and workshops to sporting events and art exhibitions.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal here. It's not just about owning a static digital asset. It's about unlocking experiences, accessing communities, and participating in this whole new digital economy.
You're getting it. And the really exciting thing is that this is still just the beginning. The metaverse is still in its very early stages of development, and we're only just starting to explore the potential of NFTs within these virtual worlds.
So let's talk about that potential. What are some of the most exciting things you see happening in the metaverse? What's got you really pumped about the future of this technology?
But one of the things that really excites me is the potential for education. Imagine students being able to take virtual field trips to ancient Rome, or explore the human body from the inside out, or even travel to distant planets, all from the comfort of their classrooms.
That would be incredible. I remember field trips being some of my favorite learning experiences growing up. To be able to do that virtually would be a total game changer for education.
It really would. And it's not just about making learning more fun and engaging. It's about making it more accessible to students all over the world, regardless of their location or socioeconomic status.
That's a really important point. Technology has the power to democratize access to education, and the metaverse could be a really powerful tool for that.
Absolutely. And beyond education, I see huge potential for the metaverse in areas like healthcare entertainment, and even social interaction. Imagine being able to attend a virtual support group for people with similar health conditions, or being able to connect with friends and family who live far away in a more immersive and engaging way.
It sounds like the metaverse could break down all these barriers of distance and isolation, connecting people in ways we haven't even imagined yet. But I also have to ask, what about the potential downsides? Are there any risks or challenges associated with the metaverse that we need to be aware of?
Of course, as with any new technology, there are always potential risks and challenges. And we'll be exploring some of those right after. No, we'll just be exploring some of those now. We were just talking about some of the incredible potential benefits of the metaverse. But as with any new technology, it's important to consider the potential downsides as well.
Right. I mean, what are some of the risks or challenges that we need to be mindful of as we kind of venture into this uncharted territory?
Well, one of the biggest concerns is this whole issue of privacy and data security. When you're interacting in a virtual world, you're generating a lot of data about yourself, your movements, your interactions, your preferences. It's crucial to understand how that data is being collected, stored, and used.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, we've already seen so many issues with data privacy in the real world, and it seems like it's only going to become even more complex in the metaverse. What steps can we take to protect our privacy in these virtual spaces?
I think first and foremost, it's about being aware of the platforms and companies you're interacting with. Do your research, read their privacy policies, and really understand how they're handling your data.
Hmm.
Look for platforms that prioritize user privacy and give you control of your information.
So it's about being informed and making conscious choices about where we spend our time and who we trust with our data. What other challenges do you see on the horizon?
Another big one is the potential for digital divides. We already talked about the importance of equitable access to education and technology, but that becomes even more critical in the metaverse. If not everyone has access to the necessary hardware, software, and internet connectivity, we risk creating this two-tiered society where some people are left behind.
Yeah, it's almost like the metaverse could exacerbate these existing inequalities if we're not careful.
Exactly. We need to be proactive in addressing these issues and ensuring that the metaverse is a space that's inclusive and accessible to everyone, regardless of, their background or circumstances.
That makes sense. What about the social and psychological impacts of all this? I mean, spending so much time in virtual worlds, could that have negative consequences for our mental health or our relationships in the real world?
That's definitely something to think about. There's already a lot of research being done on the psychological effects of, spending too much time online. And it's important to be mindful of those potential risks. We need to find that healthy balance between our digital and physical lives, ensuring that we're not neglecting our real-world relationships or our mental well-being.
Yeah, it sounds like navigating this new world will require a lot of awareness, critical thinking, and maybe even a bit of soul searching. But despite the challenges, I can't help but feel excited about the potential of all this. It feels like we're on the cusp of something truly transformative.
I agree. I think the metaverse represents a new frontier, this blank canvas where we can reimagine the way we connect, create, learn, and experience the world. It's an opportunity to build something better, something more inclusive, something that truly reflects the best of humanity.
That's a really inspiring thought. So, for our listeners who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all this new information, what's the one key takeaway you want them to remember from this deep dive?
I think the metaverse is still in its early stages and it's evolving really rapidly. But the key takeaway here is that NFTs are not just about digital art or collectibles. They're the building blocks of this new digital world, the foundation for ownership access and participation in the metaverse. And the future of this space is not something that's being dictated to us. It's something that we're all creating together.
That's a really powerful message. So, to all of our listeners out there, I encourage you to dive in, explore, ask questions, and don't be afraid to get involved. The metaverse is this world of endless possibilities, and it's really waiting for you to shape it.
And remember, as with any new adventure, it's important to be informed, be critical, and most importantly, have fun.
That's great advice. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into NFTs and the metaverse. We'll be back soon with more explorations into the world of technology and innovation. Until then, stay curious.